Quite simply put, it was a case last time out in Canada of walking on sunshine. Nothing more that could be said about Lolanoba's performance. A win in the sprint, a win in the feature. Nobody could hold a candle in the wind. But today is a little bit different. We are heading to the desert sands that Qatar can give us. The third round here of Season 7, your EA Creator Series, and we are in action here with Round 3 of the F2 season. My name's Jake Sperry, Harry Lacey alongside with me for the ride, and Harry, this is gearing up as an opening to this championship as a 4-horse race right now. Lolanova, Adam Sanderson, Dragonflies, and F1 Alex, but this third round is going to need that consistency level when overtaking is not going to be here, there, and everywhere like it was in Canada, where you have to be a little bit more pick and choosy here in Qatar.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, Qatar it's an incredible circuit to watch. Just those cars, especially through that third sector, the speed that they carry through there is just ludicrous. It's honestly, it's such an incredible thing to watch, and obviously because of that speed, there's a lack of overtaking. Of course, turn 1 being a kind of main overtaking opportunity here with that DRS assistance. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Of course, the F2 cars slightly better at following than F1 cars, so I expect everyone to be really close together, especially as you said, for that top 4 battle. And well, let's just see who takes victory here, because and again, that factor of that high-speed circuit, mistakes are easy to make. And,
they really are, and I'm sure we are going to see just how amazing that is going to be. Let's jump on over then and see how everybody stacks up coming into today. And Harry, you really get the sense here with those 4. Lolanova, perfect. Adam Sanderson, I think, could only drop 1 position off of second best possible results last time out in Canada. Dragonflies and F1 Alex still very much there. It's a long season, of course, in the battle that we go all the way through, but you're looking around the orders as well. I would say that from 5th position on back, there is no security.
No, certainly not. I mean, especially with the format that F2 has with our sprint race and our feature races as well, and obviously a couple of points up for grabs in qualifying. It can sway multiple ways in the championship tie-in. A bad round in total can absolutely cost you massively. Of course, if you have a absolutely awful round and you get no points at all, but people are scoring in the sprint and the feature and they get pole, you're just going to be losing so many points here. And it could be anyone's game still, especially at this early point in the season. And it'll be exciting to see how that plays out, and if we get someone suddenly gets good at the game and then we start to see them get up the order. It'd be incredible to see that, and we just have to wait and watch and enjoy the battles as they come.
We absolutely do. So that's going to be something to keep in mind, how the top 4 sit and how 5th on down are going through. We are on a slight delay here at the moment, so we are going to be able to get over to racing action shortly. But let's talk about where we've been and where we're going over the course of this season, Harry, because this is a long season. It's the first season in of F1 24, and because of that here, you've got this F2 championship, which started, of course, in the Principality of Monaco, the toughest challenge you can give. But when you consider where it's going over the course of this season, you've got rounds like Austria, the finale at Monza, Las Vegas. It feels very stacked from a high-speed perspective, and you look around at these tracks and you go, it's all about overtaking. It's about giving yourself opportunity to overtake.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, as you said, with those high-speed circuits, it's finding those opportunities at the perfect moment, because if you get it wrong, when you're at these higher speeds, it's going to go pretty wrong. And, entertaining from our perspective to see those massive crashes, but slightly frustrating for drivers out there on the circuit as well. And it's just, again, they've picked some absolutely cracking circuits for us to go racing around, especially in F2 cars, with how close they get in real life and in the rounds that we have here in the Creator Series. I think for me personally, I'm really excited to see them go around the Netherlands. I know it's many weeks time, but I'm quite a fan of the Dutch track, and I think with the smaller, nature of the F2 cars, it makes them better for racing around there. And there are plenty of opportunities, and I think that'll be a race to watch, certainly bookmarked for my calendar. But again, any of them could go could go for some great races.
I tell you what, this calendar throws a real curveball after the week's break after Austria. The fan vote Grand Prix, I think, is going to be something that's quite a spectacle that we come back to, knowing that that round is going to be one where drivers won't necessarily have the ability to know in advance what they've got. So they've got 2 weeks twiddling their thumbs, pretty much cold, coming back in to a track where they need to be hot from the word go. That, I feel, is going to be really important just to keep in mind. But when you're looking around at everything, a lot of assimilation here, Harry, when it comes to the real-life calendar that we've got going on, and the slew of event after event after event. Of course, this is one of the few places that you find out there in the world of Twitch and YouTube where we race during the summer break.
Yeah, indeed, and no factory breaks over here. We're all cylinders firing throughout, and the drivers, there's a variation between those kinds of circuits as well, even if they're slightly different. The drivers just need to be on it every single weekend, week in, week out, especially if they are in that championship fight. If your eyes off the money, you're gonna be losing it, and the championship could be over for you with one bad round. So it's really important these guys are absolutely on it. And again, summer holiday, sun's out, but you've got to be in the sim room, absolutely grinding it out. Otherwise, there may be glory lost.
There very much might be. Now, let's talk about this Qatar circuit as a whole here, Harry, because this is the sort of place that you go out and you get that long front stretch. That's the key place to get overtakes. But there are other places where moves can happen. Of course, the run up to turn 4 is always a chance you can get that opportunity. That opening turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, very similar to Bahrain in terms of how it opens up. It's just a lot more elongated and a lot less sharp by comparison. The only other place you've really got a chance is sometimes you can be brave into turn 10. Turns 8 and 9, very known for their understeer. And so if you get that finicky little chicane wrong, opportunities open up for overtakes.
Yeah, I think it's also really important to mention that the 4, 5 and 6 sort of complex is a place where if, say, someone, because you've got that double apex, if someone makes a little mistake coming into 4, they go wide, it can open the door for you into 5, and again, you've got that slow speed hairpin of 6, and at a hairpin you can always, if you're feeling particularly brave on the brake, send one down the inside there, or you can do a switch back, and I expect those places, not as much as turn 1, but to also have a few battles as well, especially with turn 10. I think we just have to wait and see what the drivers provide for us today. If they're feeling brave, they might be feeling really good with their tyres, with just how they're driving, with their braking, and we might see some almighty sends, and, well, we just got to wait and see for the excitement that might unfold in front of us.
Yeah, and that excitement, I'm sure we are all going to be in for that triple right, 12, 13 and 14, which is a hallmark when it comes to racing action on a Herman Tilke style track, is going to be worth keeping in mind as we go through. But Losail is going to be a track which I think is going to throw a lot of cats amongst the pigeons, not necessarily from a weather standpoint, so the drivers I think will be a little bit happier on that front, that there's going to be a minimal chance of the rain going through. But when it comes to how you go out there and predict, you've got, of course, that sprint race into that feature race. And Harry, those differences are quite pronounced, even though you're only adding on an extra 5, an extra 6 laps, because you've got the difference between no stop or one stop when it goes to your sprint race. But then when you get to the feature, you've got to be pretty switched on to know where is the right time to put it all together, when is the right time to strike.
Yeah, and I think, they're going to be using that sprint race as a bit of a testing ground, a bit, to see how the tyres are performing when they're a little bit more worn, how they're, when's the best time to make the stops, where can we find the gaps. And again, tyres are going to be a big part of this because there is a lot of high-speed corners. If you're losing grip, through 12, 13 and 14, you're just going to be losing an almighty amount of time that might just cost you the race. And it is very important that these drivers get that strategy right in the feature. Of course, it's important for the sprint as well, but it's really critical for that feature race.
And let's talk sprint race, because it runs reverse championship order in terms of how these drivers will stack up for racing action. So when you put that into perspective, it does give those drivers a little bit further back in the championship that opportunity to go out there and attack. But as we often see, Harry, when it comes to reverse grid style races, you get that accordion effect right in the middle of the pack where drivers are trying to get forward and drivers fall back, and drivers that you don't necessarily in the feature race week in, week out race against. So you often find that, or would you have that experience where you'd find that drivers are going to be in that struggle street where you sit them down, you put them into a position, realize, I don't know how this driver next to me is battling, and often more incident occurs?
Oh, 100%. And especially when we're going to be working with a track like Qatar, that's difficult to overtake on. But we're going to see drivers who are usually right up at the sharp end, down at the back end. They're going to be pushing through all sorts of different corners, taking all sorts of unique lines to desperately try and get ahead of these drivers. And we've definitely got to keep an eye out for that, because, of course, sometimes desperation does lead to mistakes and optimistic lunges. Let's put it that way. So it's definitely a factor, especially at a circuit like this. And, well, we're here for the action. Let's bring it on.
Let's bring it on indeed. We will get action over to you all the moment that becomes available to us. But this is going to be a tall challenge for certain drivers out there. We do have 4 confirmed non-participants here today for Racing Action. So no Hayden Gullis, no Jorrit, no Kryzix, and no Only Vic either, which will mean that there will be opportunities for drivers on the reserves to jump in and get themselves into action. But sometimes that does give creators a great opportunity to platform and to show themselves, because it's not just about, oh, who's the fastest. It's the championship at the end of the day, Harry. This is an opportunity to promote F1 as a whole and the esports community that has brought around. And it's those creators that create that place where everybody loves to go and race and spend time and, you know, make friends and all of those rest of the things. It's like having small families here, there, and everywhere. And that's what I think is the livelihood of what makes sim racing so great, especially with the EA Creator Series.
Oh yeah, indeed. And it's that thing of, we've got some absolutely huge creators and slightly smaller creators, and they're all in one place, racing, doing what they love, and just having an absolute blast doing so. And it makes incredible entertainment for fans, for us, and for the drivers themselves as well. I hope they have a lot of fun this evening, and obviously we will enjoy whatever they provide for us, and we hope that the fans do as well. But yeah, it's just that thing of that community that you feel from sim racing, and it's a unique thing that is kind of not really attested to much in other esports, because it's because everyone's friends and rivals on the track. It makes an incredible atmosphere and an incredible show for everyone to watch.
And that show's going to be great. We are moments away. We've got all drivers in lobby. We are ready. Just to let you all know, we've got a certain Tiamat Marduk who's going to be out there racing here today. So for those of you who keep an eye out on the F1 series, we'll see a few drivers jump into F2 and get their feet under the table nice and cozy. It'll be interesting to see how Mr. Daly will find himself going. And actually, that brings an important question into play, Harry, because when you get a driver of his caliber jumping into this series, he has a fantastic opportunity to put everybody else's points haul down compared to what they're expecting to get here at Qatar, such as his talent. It's not a guarantee that he'll have that transition into F2 pace straight away, but the question I ask to you is, how does every other driver react to him racing?
Well, I think they should obviously be afraid. Someone that quick, they need to make sure that they're careful of what he's capable of on the circuit. I think what you'll find is drivers who are good at driving, okay, let's say they're amazing at F1, they're going to be good at driving in other series as well. It's not necessarily just F1 that they're talented at, it's driving in general. And and they need to be careful they need to be aware of that there is a genuine threat to their points haul, and they've really got to make sure that they're right on the money today. Otherwise, Tiamat Marduk might be stealing a few pounds off them this evening, and I'm sure he'll be hoping to steal some as well. It's make your name in the series.
Well, they say that form is temporary and class is permanent. He is one of the drivers in the EA Creator Series who has been class season after season. So that's going to be quite an important showcase in terms of how they bring themselves through. But this is also a case of opportunities, and there have been drivers who have been putting in the time and putting in the effort outside of just jumping into official practice servers and getting themselves ready. And that comes in through the fact of the one-shot qualifying, which I think is going to be one of the most important things to keep in mind between the sprint and the feature. The sprint is that reverse grid feel, but when you're on one-shot qualifying as well when it comes to the feature here, Harry, I think that is the ultimate form of how to separate drivers.
Yeah, and there's just, when you're in that one shot, there is just so much pressure residing on that singular lap that, you know, you've just got to perfect everything. You've got to almost block out all the feelings, you know, the emotions, and you've just got to really knuckle down and get in the zone.
Yeah, so we're going to be on random grid action then here for this opening race out there. So a little bit of a correction there, but on the random grid as well, it's still exactly the same format. You might get lucky, you might not get lucky, Harry. And that's going to be, I think, where drivers look around and go, oh, I hope my number's in. I hope I'm a little bit lucky here today and I've got the front row and I don't have to worry about those drivers behind. It is a long run, though, to turn one. So you've definitely got an opportunity. If you do get a little bit of wheel spin off the start, you can easily drop back 2, 3, 4 positions.
Yeah, 100%. And it's quite unique, Qatar, in that way. And it's a very wide turn one as well. So you could probably fit three F2 cars through there if you're feeling brave enough. And that's what the guys that are starting in front need to think about when they're getting that getaway off the line, that it's really important to get that traction down and get going. Of course, rear wheel drive cars, a lot of horsepower in going through those rear wheels. Very easy to light up the tyres. I'm sure I'd be in the barrier straight when the lights are out, so they've got to be careful of that, got to be aware, they've got to make sure they get that start into turn one that they need.
There's still, though, that sense of people thinking the F2 is slow. F2 isn't. You're still hitting 300 clicks in a straight line in certain areas, and especially today where drivers are looking at using the drag reduction system, getting that move done into turn one, into turn four. They are going to need that top speed, and this actually does make setup rather difficult here, Harry, because it's a question of, do you want to go for a lower downforce setup that gives you the opportunity to make the overtakes on the straight, but how much are you going to be washed out in the dirty air through the likes of turns 12 through 14 and the middle sectors of the lap? It's that trade-off of how much do you feel like you want to make those overtakes and gain that time back on the straight.
Well, I think it also just comes down to your confidence around the circuit. If you're confident, you're the fastest guy out there, you're gonna start at the front, and you've just got to worry about getting to the checkered flag unscathed. The guys that are, you know, thinking like that, they're going to go for the setups to win. Whereas the guys who know that they're going to maybe be a little bit further back, they're going to need to make some overtakes to get through, they're going to be the ones that are going to be setting up for overtaking. And it's going to be interesting to see who goes where, because you've also got that factor of tyre wear as well. Your setup massively impacts how much your tyres wear. And that, again, makes a huge impact to your overtaking as well. If you can't get the traction down because your tyres are too worn, you're not going to get a move, no matter if you've even taken all the wings off. You know, so it's those factors as well.
It is those factors, and we'll keep an eye on those factors as we are seconds away here. As you can see on the right-hand side, everybody getting themselves ready and into position for what will be a crucial round 3. Early season form does have its importance, and we are going to go very quickly. 5 lights then here are on, and 5 lights find themselves out. 12 laps worth of racing. Zach RC with the best start of the lot then, with F1 Luke Sam there alongside F1 Alex looking around the outside. Then through the opening section, a lot of wheel spin. Lolanova already up into 4th position, but now as they charge in through turn 2, F1 Alex absolutely flying. A little bit of a jump there and a spin. A big spin for Zach RC. He's around.
Wow, that was an incredible start. We saw a Red Bull on 2 wheels. It was, the rear end was right in the air for one of those two. Just carnage everywhere on the circuit. It's that wide action as we see the Premier of Team at Marduk going right through the middle of 2 cars. That's a fantastic move from him. But yeah, chaos all around the order as we get started here on lap 1 for the sprint race.
Yeah, and one in the gravel there, heading on through. So everybody's trying to dice and dance their ways around. You can't make too much of a turn there. Peya making that lovely run through. F1 Luke Sam now looking to fall a little bit further behind here. And that's a bit wide, jumping on through. Look at the trade-off. Peya and Racing. They're really going for it. Racing sliding about off of the circuit and getting things sorted. It's F1 Alex, who of course has that lead. He's got a second in the back pocket, but there are more moves everywhere they go on the opening lap. That's Duncan finding himself there, overtaken by Matty D13. That's a big one in the background. One of the Alpines there getting caught up, and that might, or the Alpine, or the BWT livery cars there getting caught up in trouble. That was disastrous, and F1 Luke Sam out here at Qatar in the sprint.
Yeah, and wow, an exciting first lap indeed. F1 Alex was outside of DRS. He's sort of hovering in that gap now, but just a little bit further back. It looks like Big Good and F1 Damien going at it. One of those two going to the inside of the other, going into turn 1. Yellow flag still around the circuit. They're still wheel to wheel. Damien, I think that's in the Invictus car, makes his way ahead of the position. Now look at Timothée Marduk capitalising on that battle, allowing himself to step up the inside of Big Good as well, and up into P6 from, I think he started a little bit further back in the order, but they're still fighting, still squabbling as they make their way round. And Timothée Marduk, I think, just about has the edge and allows himself to retain that P6 position.
You don't often see drivers going around turn 4 and turn 5. Look at the torque. They're trying to go through the rear tyres as Timothée Marduk tries to stamp on the power. You can't just stamp the power down and get away. You've got to finely tune this machinery. 3 in the pits. Dark Viper in the pits. So too Matty D13 and the big one, Dragonflies, in the pits. So having a disastrous start in this one. He's also had a non-finish this season at Monaco when it has come to his work. So he's got a lot to do. He's on the back foot then here today in Qatar. We look up a little bit further forward here towards Dan Moran, who's looking at Adam Sanderson, who's not really had the best showcase here at this moment in time. But we've also got to keep an eye out on the front of the field, because your championship leader is going to be gunning for the race lead with the driver 4th in the championship, F1 Alex. There's a 3-second time penalty in there for Duncan, but watch out, F1 Alex has Lolanoba behind.
Yeah, indeed, right inside the DRS now, only 4 tenths behind. It's going to be a great battle, especially coming down this straight next lap. Prepare to see some overtaking from Lolanoba. Certainly, I'd expect to see a move. It just depends. F1 Alex, he's got to hold his nerve and pick his defences right. Perhaps he could think about a switch back into turn 1. It's all about thinking about where you're going to play your cards. It is only a 12-lap race. You've got to pretty much be flat out throughout the entire thing. And well, let's bring on the next lap, I think, is the incentives we've got at the moment. Yeah, no, it's going to be an exciting battle, I'm sure, between the two of them.
And we have to remember as well that this is going to be tough conditions, because they are racing here in the daytime rather than what is traditionally known as night, which means that these drivers have hotter conditions than what they're expecting. And of course, that will mean the tyre wear will go away quite a bit more over this one. And that might be interesting to see who's going with what. A lot of white wall tyres then being seen around as everybody is trying to work out what's the best way forward here. Only lap 3 as they all start looking. We focus on Pondon here at the moment in 10th position. That's not ideal for Matty D13 around at the opening corner, so falls now to absolutely back of the pack.
Yeah, no, that spin's rather unfortunate for Matty. Again, his tyres are going to be hot after that spin as well. He's going to take some time to recover, and especially in this Qatari desert heat, it's going to be very difficult to get that under control again. But then we look to the main straight where we see a battle for the lead of the race then. Lolanoba does make that move with the DRS assistance and is into the lead before they even reach the braking zone of turn 1. And nothing really F1 Alex can do about that. DRS is all powerful.
It is there, Lolanoba. That is as bread and butter basic as you are going to find. Quite comfy on a move. There's Timothée Marduk. He's on the back here of F1 Damien. This would be for 5th place if he can find a way through. But we'll take a little look back then and see just what he had to deal with off of the start. Way down the order, he found himself in 11th off of the grid, and then had to really scramble going around the outside here off of the start of this race, just about tagging there the back of Pondon, but then just about tiptoeing there, seeing drama on the inside, sliding a bit on the curb. It's an aggressive start to the race.
Yeah, no, and he's and oh, so keep going.
Yeah, so an aggressive start that we've seen there. There's Dragonflies, who's got himself now the fastest lap here, 136.6, really trying to show that he did have a turn of cadence out there. So it's worth keeping in mind just how good he finds himself. And Tiamat Marduk struggling a little bit here, has dropped about 0.4 of a second then over the course of the middle sector, where F1 Damien's just got that little bit more, it seems, at this moment. So that's got to be worth keeping in mind. There's more penalties coming around. B-Roy picks up 3 seconds. You've got to keep an eye on them when you start counting at the end. Already 1.2 seconds the gap between Lolanoba and F1 Alex, and that's brought Razin into play right now, using that toe, trying to find an angle. We'll go at the latest opportunity down to the inside, and there's not much the Premier of F1 Alex can do about that. It is a sit and wait. There is a chance for the cutback again at turn 2, but the door is ironclad and firmly shut.
Yeah, indeed. Another textbook move for Razin Chai there. No resistance, able to be even thrusted in by F1 Alex, and he can do nothing. But look at these two Red Bull livery cars, Jessica Bull and Pondon, going absolutely at it as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. Pondon still wheel to wheel there. I think that's Jessica trying to go round the outside, but no grip being found. She has to settle for P11. Of course, the sprint race, only the top 8 score points. So these two are still far outside the points. Again, it's getting those positions to find their way into perhaps starting to gain some time. But I'm sure these two will be battling once again, as Big Good does pick up another 3-second time penalty for himself. Yeah, watch out for these two battling down the straight once again. Could be anyone's game into turn 1.
Well, Jess here hasn't had a finish better than 16th place in any of the races so far this season, and this is great. His team radio, fair play, couldn't defend that. Absolutely correct. That was just brilliantly done, and that's what this racing is going to be all about. You are constantly trying to look for the right place to attack, but these long parabolic corners, this was a track that was built not for Formula cars here, Harry. It was built for MotoGP, and because of that, it means that you get these long corners, which always gives you the opportunity to attack back.
Yeah, indeed so. And that's exactly what the drivers are doing here, and I think that's what makes the racing, when it happens, so exciting around Qatar, as Zach RC picks up a 3-second penalty as well. And yeah, that's what makes the racing so exciting, because there's so many opportunities to fight back and forth between the two of them, and especially in cars like F2 cars, it makes for a brilliant show. Persia becoming the 5th driver then to pick up a 3-second time penalty as well.
Well, that's going to hurt heavily, because both F1 Damien and Tiamat Marduk are within a second of each other and behind there. So that would currently drop him back from 4th to 6th position, which would be a disaster. Dirk now also picks up those 3 seconds too, and he will now find himself in the MP back there in 9th position with about a 6-second gap then. So a lot to work. Now, as a car spun, and I think that's Racing who's gone around from 3rd position out to turn 9, and just like that, Harry, he has now lost himself a bundle of places.
Yeah, indeed, and he's going to be scrambling down the order. I'm sure that's Ben. You can see him really struggling to get the traction. He ended in the gravel in the barrier. I'm not quite sure if there's any wing damage on that car. I couldn't quite see any in the quick look I got, but yeah, down from P3 straight down, or P2, sorry, down to P8. Razin's got a long race, long 6 laps ahead of him to make up for lost time and ground.
Was almost identical the way that he was off, the same way that happened in the Creator Series playoffs for Peya, only a little bit more. And there is Adam Sanderson deciding he needs to start scrapping back, because remember, he needs to find a way to get up to 8th place here in this race. If he can, he'll score some sprint points out there. And of course, it is 8 points for a win in the sprint, and it's 1 point increment all the way down. So to find himself in 10th, he's looking behind Pondon and Jess Bull, both trying to find a way through. Jessica there in 11th, can only watch on the inside, gets that lovely done and through on Pondon, who's looking around thinking, how on earth have I ended up in 12th place? But this is still not decided. Look at that from Pondon. The grip around the outside of 2 opens the door at 3. Not enough drive.
That's an incredible, and again, that's a reflection of the great racing we do have around Qatar. That was an expertly crafted move from Pondon. Jessica just can't do anything against it. Just incredible racing and an incredible move. But again, these two, I reckon, they're going to be scrapping it out for the rest of the race. They're still close together, and I'm not sure if Madsen will be gaining on them whatsoever, but if he joins the fray, if he manages to find some time, it could make for an exciting battle. Even if it is for no points, battling is battling, and it is incredibly exciting, as we have just witnessed.
And we might just be starting to see the tyre wear factor come into play here for Ben Daly. Tiamat Marduk in 5th position. F1 Damien has just been keeping him at an arm's length here in this battle and has been doing everything right. F1 Damien comes into today with just, I believe, 9 points in the championship, 14th coming in, and this 4th place, holding off Tiamat Marduk, is the stuff that dreams are made of, and at this moment in time, he's doing just enough, but look out, because you've got Bigard and Duncan going at it, and Duncan now trying to get that crossover, backs well out of it there, through turn 2, a big slide off of the exit, now the door will open here, through turn 3 on lap 8, but can you find the drive on that outside, heading towards 4, wrong side of Lady Luck, the 290-degree right, and Duncan has to sit and wait, knowing that Rassen will leapfrog both of them with the 3-second penalties they both have.
Yeah, no, Duncan was very aggressive on that defence there through turn 2. A bit of a slide there from himself as well, as we just seen from the camera of Rassen Chai. But yeah, no, very aggressive on the defence, and that's what allowed him to maintain that position. He just completely came over to the right-hand side of the track to block the move. Although that did give him a slide, it was enough to keep the defence up and maintain that position.
Yeah, and position being held at the moment is crucial because we are over at that 2/3 stage of the race and drivers are thinking endgame here in this sprint and what they can do. Again, it's 7/10 of a second here for Tiamat Marduk, who continues to stare at the ever-decreasing rear wing that is there as F1 Damien rushing through. Bigger gets another 3 seconds. That will hurt a little bit more because now that goes through as there are changes of position back there, but still the chase on for Ben Daly. He can't quite get much more. B-Roy now up at 12 seconds worth of time penalty here from multiple warnings. The corner cuts really are playing a factor here today. It's so easy, but Duncan is not going to sit down and let Rassen have everything his own way. He'll try searching for the inside, but look at the determination on that outside parabola. Brilliantly done by Rassen, trying to hold it again here at turn 2. And Duncan, oh, you want to pick a pocket or two? He's the artful dodger the way he's taken that one away.
Yeah, incredible. Again, just working there. But look at this, Rasenschei still fighting back on the outside here. He is still there as they go through the 90-degree corners. It's now going to be the inside for Rasen coming into the turn 6 hairpin. A bit of a lock-up from Duncan on the outside, but they're still going to be wheel-to-wheel all the way through this corner. I think Duncan looks like he's just got the traction and has got the inside line for the next corner. Rasen still trying to find a wheel in there, but just not able to do so this lap. And that is some incredible fighting between these two, putting on an amazing show. Duncan defending hard, even with that 3-second time penalty. More locking up. I'm wondering if that is just an effect of the game, but if he is really locking up like that, I'm sure his tyres will be looking like 50p pieces at this stage of the Grand Prix.
Very much having Thrupney tyres will not be the way that he's hoping for. What a battle between those two. 7 corners side by side. You don't often get to see that in terms of racing, and he has done brilliantly in that aspect. Now down to 3 laps to go. F1 Alex now has an interesting situation sat right now as Tiamat Marduk is now through on F1 Damien and up into 4th position, but it's F1 Alex who I think's got the most interesting situation. Does he want to let Peya through, and how much does he trust his pace right now? Because that could be very much a case of troublesome. B-Roy's gone around. Here comes the look back then from Racing to try and get this back through. He does now jump once again into 7th position outright. But F1 Alex here, question is right now, Harry, does he let Peya through, and does he believe he can hold on by 3 seconds?
With 2 laps to go, I would still hold that position still. I think anything can happen, and that track position is still so important. Even if it's very unlikely Peya is going to be able to get ahead by 3 seconds, I just wouldn't risk it, because again, if you have a spin, you have an incident because you've backed off it and you're now in the dirty air, it's on you, and you've got to defend that position as much as you can. And I think that's, if I were doing F1 Axis shoes, I'd hold that position for as long as possible.
He would be Ben Daly's best friend if he does that, because that gap is 0.7 of a second there. We'll take a look, though, at the replay here. This is the pass on F1 Damien. This is how he did it, through the triple rights to the outside of 50. Oh, sorry, there through 6 and 7 and so, and that was how he did it, through 6, sorry, and then getting himself the confirmation through 7. That's where the move was made. But you're looking at time, and time is important. Racing now picks up 3 seconds out there. Here goes Peya straight to the inside, and that is comfortable. Little front right lock as he went through, but that is beautifully concocted. And there is F1 Damien saying, I want my seconds here, as he tries to go through. Door is slammed shut as he has to get out of it there. Ben Daly commanding the circuit.
That was a bold lunge from Damien. He was quite far back, and I'm really impressed that he was able to get that one stopped, and comfortably stopped as well. That was a great attempt at a move, and this is showing Ben that he's not out the woods yet. He's really got to push these last couple of laps, because both of them don't have time penalties. They've got to be really on the ball. Here we go, Pondon and Jessica back at it once more. To the inside for Jessica, but look at how much further Pondon is. Again, it's that wide track giving so many line options there, and Pondon has, I think he's retained P11 ahead of Jessica now. But yeah, this one's going to be straight to the line, and we need to certainly be keeping our eyes peeled for that one.
Here is Lolanoba, leads this race by 2 seconds out here at the front, knowing Peya has 3 seconds worth of penalty. At this point, he has just said goodbye to them and has managed this race from this point onward, Harry, and simply put, what you love to see. F1 Damien now lining up the last great chance of an overtake going on towards the final lap, but it looks like he's dropping a bit of time there, heading through 16.
Yeah, indeed. So he looks like he has got a slightly better exit than Tim Etmardik, but now he does also have that DRS factor as well, and he is going to gain a couple of tenths. But I think he's just a little too far back to turn on. I think if he sends one from here, it was almost a look, but if he sent it from back there, I think he might have received a penalty for that one. But I think that's, yeah, as he said, that's pretty much Damien's last chance, unless Ben does make a mistake around the lap. I think those positions are relatively set in stone, but of course we have to wait for the checkered flag to 100% know where our positions lie.
Dark Viper picks up another 3 seconds worth of penalty. The chase very much on. There is Bigard with 6 seconds worth of penalty, 3.2 his gap between himself and Dirk, so he's got to absolutely charge. Duncan, we go on board with, because he's not done with Racing, who's got back up in 6th position. Massive kick of oversteer. Everybody's trying to get as much turn in late as they possibly can here in this F2 machinery to try and find their way through and navigate. That's what's the key. Jessica Ball again, hoping for an opportunity for a move on Pondon. Once more, the door is slammed shut on that chance, but there's still chances left. But who could stop Lolanoba? Tiamat Marduk's lost the place to F1 Damien, but Lolanoba will now find himself with a 3rd straight victory here in F2 Creator Series. He is starting to march away with what was a dominant display of driving to get himself through. Some big action there. Peya will fall back then into 3rd, and the key, F1 Damien, finally got his match over Tiamat Marduk.
Yeah, indeed. Lolanoba, just an incredible performance out there. No one was touching him today. And let's see if that makes its way through to the feature race. But yeah, I mean, Tiamat Marduk's finished 3 seconds behind Damien, so I think he's made a pretty big mistake somewhere around the lap, because that's not usually You don't usually see that much of a time difference. They were fighting for a long time, so I'm wondering if we could see where that move was made and if that... We got a puncture apparently. Oh, that's not good. Perhaps that's a sign, perhaps, that the pit stops are going to be really important for the feature race. That's really unlucky actually for Ben in the end. He did a good job actually to hold on to P5 with that puncture. So yeah, an incredible race overall though, some fantastic action. I am certainly ready for a few more laps of it come the feature race.
Yeah, and we add the strategy of pit stops in there as well. This is a circuit with a lot of high loads that go through the tyres. There's a lot of heavy raised curbing around here as well. So the opportunity for punctures are high around this place. Tiamat Marduk falling foul with half a lap to go. And F1 Damien picks one away to get through. Last car to the line will be Zach RC, who of course was on the front here for this one. And he'll be hoping that he gets himself through. The massive swerves there just indicates the mood that he's in after that initial sprint here at Losail. Not what he was hoping for in terms of a display, but this has been a sprint that has pretty much said, everybody look out. But the more that things change, the more things stay the same here, Harry. Lolanoba picking it up and picking it up with ease, really, in terms of the way he drove.
Yeah, indeed. It was just cruising, and I think it's that thing of when you're in the lead, you're able to manage tyres, fuel, everything, and he was just right in the zone for those 12 laps, and no one was going to topple him. He finished, I think, about 3 seconds in front at the end. Just a display of dominance, that is for sure. But again, I think what was interesting to see was the amount of penalties that we saw and how that might affect the feature race. It only had 12 laps around here, plenty of drivers with penalties. Patterson had 19 seconds, B-Roy with 12, and Zach with 9. Those were the biggest penalty holders. And let's say come the feature race, is it a chance that those guys get disqualified if they continue to invalidate laps like they did? Could we see other drivers get a bit lazy with it come the feature race and pick up penalties? And I think it'd be a shame if track limits comes into play to decide the lead of the race. But I think we'll have to wait and see if the drivers have learned something. Again, it's that thing with that sprint. You can learn things during that phase of the weekend, and maybe perhaps they'll learn to actually stay within the track limits more accurately. So let's just see how that unfolds.
I think we're going to see something really special in terms of that regard. But I think one of the things that stands out is actually who struggled here today, who was outside of it when it came to the sprint race. And the two that come to mind here, Harry, Adam Sanderson and Dragonflies, both in trouble. Now, because it's the sprint, it's not the end of the world. They do forfeit 8 championship points to Lolanoba, but 8 championship points. Those 8 championship points, they will add up as the season goes on.
Yeah, indeed. And if we're expecting the championship to be as close as we've been saying it will be, it's going to be really important. Those 8 points, they're 8 points at the end of the day. We've seen plenty of championships before decided by minimal points, decided on the last race, and those 8 could be costly for them come our final round in Monza. So again, it's just that thing of hope it doesn't affect you, but you just got to move on and deal with it at this point. There's nothing you can do about that.
No, there really isn't out there. This is, of course, your EA Creator Series. You can follow us on all of our platforms up there for the Creator Series, be it YouTube, be it, of course, Instagram, on X, and on TikTok as well. You can jump through for those of you watching on Twitch. Hi, how are you? How's your day going? And how good has this racing been? We're about with one-shot qualifying, which will be the next port of call that we'll be challenging on next. But, Harry, you're starting with Lolanoba, who has now got himself 2 sprint victories this season. He has got himself a feature win in Canada, a feature second in Monaco. Out there at the moment, Lolanoba's woken up and has basically said, right, this is my championship. I'm going to put a rubber stamp on it, and it's up to everybody else to step up to the plate. Nobody has been able to make the car look as consistent as what Lolanoba has. He's got it on rails, basically, at this stage.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that consistency factor that wins championships. You could come second in every single race of the season, but you'll score more than the guy that is all over the place, bouncing up between first, last, fifth, sixth, and that consistency factor is, a sign of a champion. And I think, as the season progresses, he's got himself a great start, a great haul of points from these early rounds, and it's just going to give him that little buffer every time coming into rounds, and it's going to mean he's able to be more relaxed and in the car and not be so stressed, not be thinking about making ridiculous moves, not really thinking, right, I really need to make this move to make this position. He's not going to have that mentality, and he can be, as I said, relaxed and be comfortable and lead the way he has been that we just saw in that sprint race.
Let's take a look then at the F2 standings after that sprint race. See just what a difference that has made. Lolanoba is now 14 points to the good over Adam Sanderson. F1 Alex now jumps up into third position, but you're looking around at all of those drivers you were saying, okay, it's still a chance for everyone. Begood's still got to look behind at Dirk, at Luke Howick, at all these drivers who are there who are going to be going for points and are going to get that opportunity to say, you know what, we need some today because everyone's out there pushing and trying to put, their best result on the table, knowing that it's a tough overtaking circuit here today at Qatar. You've got places where you can make it happen. And next week is exactly the same when you got the circuit to Catalunya, Barcelona. So it's the case of, these 2 rounds are really difficult for overtaking. This is where natural pace is going to come into play.
Oh, yeah, for sure, 100%. And it's going to be that thing of, for these guys that are a little bit further down the standings, perhaps they're going to be taking a few more risks in the races to come, especially around Barcelona. There are places where you can have a cheeky send. Whether that goes well for you or not is, I think, determined by drivers around how they're driving as well. If they're willing to let you make those sends or putting you to the screws and perhaps causing incidents, then I think that's something we need to be aware of, even though it is so early in the season. I mean, if we look at P7, Hayden Gull is 44 points behind Lolanoba now. That's a massive deficit to gain, especially if Lolanoba is going to be continuing to be consistent and taking wins. Even if, let's say Hayden shows up and takes first place every other race, Lolanoba in second, that will probably be enough points, but it's going to be tough to gain this back, and there's going to need to be some big moves happening in the coming races to gain those points.
Yeah, so those races, I think, are going to be important. I think we are going to get a very quick opportunity here to talk to one of our drivers out there overall in terms of what we've been seeing in terms of performance. I am going to just quickly bring in Tiamat Marduk in for a little bit of a chat. Mr. Daly, in terms of your F2 foray then, in terms of jumping in for the first time with F1 24 into the F2s, what's been the biggest thing that you've learned in those 12 laps, aside from keep the tyres in check, for you to get things all nicely situated compared to F1?
Just being smooth, really. It's crazy how delicate you have to be with these cars. I assumed that the opposite was true. I thought you had to be rough with these cars and get the rotation going. That was certainly the case last year, but this year you got to be smooth as hell, because when I get to slow speed corners, I think it's like the hairpin, the left-hand hairpin, maybe turn 2 or 3. I just kept losing the back end through there, and I think maybe that amounted to why my tires were so bad, because I felt like I was sliding the first half of the race. So, yeah, any advice to people jumping into F2? Smooth is fast, 100%.
Smooth is fast, and the way that you had your emphasis in a dramatic start for you. Of course, you had Zach RC spinning right in front of you, but being in the middle of the pack, having to work your way forward, were you looking at that thinking, did I really want to be that far back and having to work through, or would you have preferred something a little bit more quiet like it was in the middle of the race where it all just sort of split apart a little?
No, I love the chaos. I was going to put myself at the back, but I didn't know what the grid order was going to be, but they chucked me right in the middle, so that's right in the chaos zone. Somehow I survived. I loved it, to be honest. And hopefully there's a bit more of that in the feature race. So yeah, bring on the chaos, bring on the carnage. It's why I signed up. So yeah, for the main race, let's just have some fun.
Well, that fun comes through whole shot qualifying then. So 1 shot to get your time through. For you, how much are you looking at that 1 lap pace, and what are you aiming for out of your 1 shot quali?
Start last. I'm gonna start last in this one. So yeah, I'll come through, and again, I just want to have some battles and have some fun. So I think flocking myself at the back is the best way to guarantee that.
Well, we'll wish you the best of luck with that, because we are heading towards 1 shot qualifying now. Ben Daly, Tiamat Marduk, joining us then for an opportunity to chat. Harry, 1 shot qualifying is coming up. We've got a last to first challenge coming along in this race coming through, but 1 shot for those drivers who did not get the round that they wanted. How important is it to reset your mind knowing you've got an all-important run coming forward into this feature race?
It's vital. I mean, you know, it's that thing of you just got to get your head clear, like you said, and just move on to the next thing. Approach with a fresh mind, as difficult as it is. A lot of these guys have experienced racers, been racing for a long time. They'll be good at that, and they'll be able to just forget about it, move on to the next thing. I think you see that a lot with the real life drivers as well. They are incredible at just moving on accuracy. I think a scenario where that comes to mind for me is Hungary 2020. Max Verstappen stuck it in that barrier on the run to the grid, and then he had an incredible race. Like, he was just able to just completely get that out of his mind. I think that's what's going to separate the incredible drivers to just the great drivers here this evening.
Well, there are many drivers who are out there who put great performances in. Razin took the fastest lap. You've got drivers here, there, and everywhere. So, Harry, I'll leave this question to you. When it comes to 1 shot qualifying, who do you want to see take our lap on board?
I think, that's a difficult question. There's 20 drivers that I'd love to see the lap on board with. I think we should stick with our championship leader. I think it'll be interesting to see how he takes his lines and how he does across the lap, because I expect him to be fast. Let's just see if he can take that pole.
Well, you heard it here first. We're going to go with Lolanoba for 1 shot qualifying. You get 1 chance. You get 1 opportunity, as one Mr. Eminem said in his song on the movie 8 Miles. So there is going to be every chance for these drivers to go and try and get through. And I tell you what, Lolanoba here, as we are just about 10 seconds away, he is right now 30 seconds away to Mars sometimes at this point, because it's come take me down, bury me, and nobody can seem to get close enough. But this is where 1 shot qualifying becomes so very vital, and we look with Lolanoba now for this flying lap, charging along now on this front stretch and looking towards turn 1. You've got to try and spot using the braking markers 150, 100, and even as late as the 50-meter board. You're slowing down, looking for that run, 3rd gear. Now you've got to attack off of the exit, maximizing the circuit out to in to out. He is the fastest in the opening sector as he pilots his way through 2 and immediately has the straight line speed that he wants now, heading through to turn 4. These 90-degree right-handers battling a little bit over the curves, hoping that he can get through. Racin's the wrong way. He's disqualified from the session. Not ideal for what he wants. In through 6, slow it down, 2nd gear. Try and make sure you're keeping the car as pointy as possible. And then turn 7 comes along. This middle sector is so very vital because it's so easy to lose the time through 8 and 90-degree right then of turn 9. B-Roy's lap invalidated. Tiamat Marduk done. Of course, we expected from the session, but now out of 10 and towards 11, this is where the commitment to the tyres comes into play. The long rights of 12, of 13 that comes along, which is a semi-short straight, and 14, which you have to be committed for. So easy to understeer through this section and run into troubles. 15, look at the turn in there. It is just magical right now from Lolanoba, which leads, of course, to 16. Little bit of a lock up there on the front, but he has not ceded first position here since the opening corner of this lap. Lolanoba, absolutely majestic, a 34.8, Harry.
Yeah, indeed, 1.5 tenths clear of the rest of the pack, and that was just an incredible lap. He was right on it, perfect throughout. I think we picked the right guy to be on board with, and he will start on pole. And let's see if he controls the feature race just as much as he controlled the sprint. Of course, now we're going to have that pit stop coming into play as well. Let's see how he handles that, and I'm sure it will be with absolute perfection, like he has been for the rest of this weekend.
5 drivers then unable to set a time in one-shot qualifying. Great qualifying time for Dragonflies there. F1 Alex again looking incredibly solid, and that level of consistency is there. Adam Sanderson down in 7th position, Harry, there. That will be a case for him. This is a damage limitation round for Adam Sanderson, and he's got work to do. He can only hope to bounce back through this race or bounce back when it comes to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya a week from today. That's what's in his back mind as we get ready to grid.
Yeah, indeed. And what he's also got to be aware of is that he doesn't do anything too stupid. I'm sure, I have no doubts that he won't do anything stupid, but he's got to make sure he's not going for stupid sends, because that just increases his workload and increases the pressure coming into Barcelona. And he wants to be on a clear head, clear mind, knowing that he's done the best that he can, didn't do anything reckless around this circuit. So let's bring on the race. Let's bring on the action. We've got some really fast drivers that are right at the sharp end last in the sprint race, right at the back to give us some brilliant action. So let's see how they approach this start and the strategy.
So that's what we are waiting for. This is going to be a little bit longer in terms of the laps, but they will have that pit stop that they've got to get through. 5 lights then will light themselves once more. And in this illumination, underneath the desert heat, we get ourselves going again. Lolanova with a scorcher of a start. F1 Alex there sitting and waiting once more. Little bit of side-by-side there. Great start by Adam Sanderson. He's already up into 5th place there in the Trident. That's brilliant for what was wanted, and now charging about. Lolanova getting exactly what the doctor ordered, but Dark Viper, who was a little bit bottled up in the sprint, now looking to try and flex his muscles in the feature. A look there for 3rd to go on board with Duncan as he has to deal with Pondon and Patterson.
Yeah, indeed. Again, we've seen more chaos, but slightly less chaos than we saw in the sprint. Everyone's behaving themselves a little bit more, but they're still all wheel to wheel, side by side, trying to find space around this circuit. As, yeah, indeed, great start from Adam Sanderson. Let's look at his Dragonflies and F1 Alex on the inside. A bit of a correction for Dragonflies to try and avoid the Prema that was up his inside at one point or another. As look at a gaggle of cars still all fighting as they squabble for space on the circuit to try and settle in to a rhythm for these 16 laps here around the Losail International Circuit.
We're 10 corners in, and Ben Daly's already up 7 places here to 13th. What a start he's having. Lolanova clear, 0.4 of a second, but not 100% clear at this moment. You've got to stay within a second through the opening 3 laps of this race. That will allow you the opportunity to use the drag reduction system. Uber wide from 5th goes Adam Sanderson. He can't afford to do that too often, otherwise he might incur some penalties out there, and that would be the last thing on his mind, trying to stay with F1 Alex there in 4th place. But 1 lap complete, and look at this right now. Pondon eyeing Patterson up here as they head towards this. This is pure power. 3 wide on the straight. Peya goes breezing by the pair of them, and they will squabble for the apex on the inside. Will this end in tears? They go through the opening section. No, it won't. And now it's 2x2 off the exit. Welcome Pondon. There's Dan Moran trying to find his way around the outside, and he's got it to boot.
Wow, incredible racing between the two of them. They're still going at it here. There's almost going to be 3 wide coming into our next section of corners. The double apex right-handers. They're still wheel to wheel. Looks like Team at Marduk getting involved in that one as well. Trying to find space. Looks like Ben has now got the inside into turn 6. Chaos in the background as there's braking everywhere. Lockups all around. So many drivers wheel to wheel. It's hard to count, hard to see where they all are on the circuit. But they have done an incredible job of not having any incidents. And that's great racing. They're still fighting a little bit further back then. Looks like Razin Chai getting involved a little further back. It's just so close between everyone at the moment. It could be anyone's place. A miracle, though, that there's been no incidents so far.
And Peya, they're looking at Dirk, and the yellow flag's out there in the second sector. And that is trouble for B-Roy there on the hard tyres going around. So Peya, Duncan, Begood and F1 Damien all on the hard tyres with Jessica Bull and B-Roy. Everyone else starting on the soft here for this one. So that's going to be an important distinction, that those drivers on the softs who want to get away early now have a lot to focus on. Peya bottlenecking everybody else out at this moment, and the Bahamas fort of Dark Viper setting the fastest lap of the race in through the opening section. Lolanoba is not going to have everything his own way in this race. Dark Viper and Dragonflies are keeping contact.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, it's interesting to see that only a few drivers starting on the hards, as B-Roy has retired from the session. I think that's in the pit lane for him. But yeah, interesting to see not many on the hards, and they're going to have a difficult time off the start, of course, more difficult than the guys on the softs. But we'll see if it pays off for them come the checkered flag. It's going to be that thing. And look at this battle going on between Matty D and Dirk Chocolate. Matty on the inside of Dirk now. Dirk being shown the wide line, but it looks like he's got a great exit coming out of it as they make their way up into turn 7. They're still going to be able to wheel with Dirk on the inside now. And he does that position from Matty D in the Matty in the Trident, unable to make that overtake. Wow, keep the battles coming. I'm really enjoying them so far.
I tell you what, the perks of Dirk there, making sure that his position is 6th. An extra one up. Adam Sanderson ran a little bit wide in front of him. That'll be next on the list. Focus on board then with Dragonflies, who looks to try and charge on with Dark Viper, and Lolanoba, who leads this race out there at the moment on lap 3, but crucially in range at all these drivers. Half a second to 7/10, and this is where Dragonflies needs to be alert, because Dark Viper now is going to get that same thing. Look at Lolanoba, hard over to the pit wall side, the dirty side of the circuit, wants to try and break that toe. Dark Viper knows he can't make the move into turn 1, so he doesn't even begin to try and make a move down the inside. He knows his chance will come a few laps from now. Here comes the look from Dirk from 6th to 5th. He's got a couple tridents calling Poseidon.
Indeed, he has. Master of the Seas, Dirk Chocolate, it seems. And now we look at Dan Moran trying to go round the outside of Duncan, and Razin Chai lurking in the background, thinking about where he can make his move. Again, a wide circuit, will be picking his options wisely back there. But wow, the Tridents are falling back a little bit in this race. And look at Razin Chai. He has picked his option well and makes his way up into P12. Having a little bit of a slower start than what Tiamat Marduk was able to manage. But I think as the race goes on, we'll see the two of them continue to move up the order.
We're going to take a little look back then on what happened with Adam Sanderson off of the start. He got an electric launch looking for Peya. Look at that. It's Ryan Hunter-Ray like 2 tyres off the circuit trying to find the angle, and then just breezing, trying to find a way through. Couldn't manage it on Dragonflies, but 2 to the good. Adam Sanderson, that is a lovely start for his race, and now in 6th position, he's got work to do. Lolanoba, who has got 3 race wins in a row, looking for a 4th right now. He'll be comfortable in the fact that his dams machine's out there at the front. Patterson now starting to wake up the penalty warnings out there. He gets 3 seconds down there in 10th.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, Lolanoba's got some composition, actually, it looks like, for this feature race, which is going to make it incredibly exciting. And Dark Viper, yeah, it was a bit of a... we didn't really see him much in the sprint. He's awoken from his slumber now. And look at that, almost thinking about it to the inside for Lolanoba.
Well, this is early.
A bit of a long game here. Yeah, very early into the stops for Adam Sanderson. As Dan Moran picks up 10 seconds for speeding in the pit lane. Yeah, interesting from Adam that he's come in so early. Are those soft tyres really going off at this stage of the race?
I reckon this is more of an undercut. Trying to get an undercut on the field has been struggling. He definitely wants to be ahead of Dirk. A drop back to almost 3 seconds behind F1 Alex. That's where the key's going to be. Trying to use those tyres where everyone else is. And when you've got Lolanoba having to play defense at the front of this field, you get the sense that Adam Sanderson is going to roll the dice. He will have to pay the piper back later in this one in terms of the wear on his hard tyres. But if you think you can gain an advantage now, this is the best time to think about making a stop when you feel like you've got a little bit of clean space. He's got 22 seconds of that to boot as well. Lolanoba hasn't necessarily been forced to make a defensive move. Dark Viper shadowing at every single stage. But this is what Dark Viper needs. He's just got to pick and choose the right moment for him to work out, when do I want to dive into the pits? When do I want to force the hands of not only Lolanoba, but Dragonflies and F1 Alex as well?
Yeah, it's that thing. Dark Viper is now in control of this race effectively, because he might end up forcing Lolanoba to stop early. And in fact, Lolanoba, they're both going in at the same time. Interesting
top
that they haven't
three.
done the reverse of each other.
It's
Yeah,
top,
top three all into the pits.
So F1 Alex will stay out, and he will look to overcut on his strategy and use the fresh hard tyres to get himself through. So this is a big call to dive into the pits then, and now it becomes a battle of pit crews to see who's going to get out. Slightly slower stops here, of course, in F2, and a small hold there maybe for one driver to go through. Lolanoba has come out just where he needs, and that is the perfect gap to try and find himself back out there. Dark Viper needed that with Dragonflies going. There is Adam Sanderson by comparison. He's making his way now onto the front stretch. It's a long and agonising pit lane, and the exit does move out forward. So what's he going to get? Answer's not very much, but you look there, that's his teammate Matty 13, and he's just about going to stay ahead. So that was minimal in terms of what he gained.
Yeah, it's because everyone pitted the lap after. He is obviously going to have those warmer tyres, and he's going to gain... Oh, who's that fun round? Dragonflies is round! I think it's that factor of those cold tyres. He's just lit them up coming out of the pit lane. And Dragonflies, he's lost a lot. Well, I say he's lost a lot of time. He's lost a lot of time compared to where he was. That's not a great start to the final stint. He's going to be putting a bit of extra wear on those tyres as well.
Oh, and that's not what you want. Turn 2, out of the pits, a mistake for Dragonflies, and that's been something that's been plaguing him over the course of his races. Abundance of speed, but sometimes the rare mistake does creep in. Now, F1 Alex, with Dirk behind, should be diving in, and yes, will do. Has to cover off the move and jump into the pits. Does Dirk follow in tow? Yes, so Peya will now take the lead. In comes Tiamat Marduk. He'll be followed by Racing and Patterson. Whoa, how close do you want to be? That's a front wing. Absolutely annihilated from Racing.
Yeah, that's going to cause Racing to have a long stop or a painful final few laps if he does not change that. Let's see if he can get that change.
That's going to be disastrous for Tiamat Marduk. He's double stacked in the pits because of F1 Alex.
Yeah, we didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's just making Tiamat Marduk's the first challenge just that bit harder. It's almost like he's wanting to have a bit more of a challenge. But here we go then. I think those guys are, of course, going to filter through back into the lead of the race, effectively the race, as Lolanoba, was that almost a battle with Dark Viper?
Yeah, he's just through.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is big. This is for the net race lead. And now you get the sense Lolanoba needed that. But Dark Viper, I don't think is going to give this one up here. Heading towards turn 4. He'll definitely have a chance to look for the inside. He can't quite get there. But these two are putting on a showcase out there at this moment in time. Dark Viper needing to really wake up and say, this is what I want, this is what I need, and looking to try and maybe open an opportunity for the move. It's still not quite there.
Not quite there yet, but I'm sure with the DRS assistance, he looks a lot closer than he's been in previous laps. And I think it's that thing of, when does he actually want to go for the move? Does he want Lolanoba to wear his tyres down a bit more leading the race, and does he want to see him maybe take a couple of laps to see where he's quicker, where he's slower, where will be his best chance to make that overtake? It was always looking like he was going to go for it there, and I was a bit on edge, as this is not really the place where you go for overtakes, and I think we are about to see in a couple of corners time if he goes for that move or if he again takes that advisory position and just watching, waiting, lurking like the Vipers in real life do. Let's see if he can make that move.
Well, that is Biga done then from this race. He pulls it into the pits and retires the car. So that's him out of contention then for this one. And look behind, because that is Dirk under pressure. This is Adam Sanderson and Dirk on radio. Pond, why are you breaking that call as flat? Sorry, anyone who pitted earlier will struggle, and that, I think, is going to be a case here. They will have to manage those hard tyres because it was a 12-lap race and Tiamat Marduk got a blown tyre. So if you think you got to go 11, 12 laps on the tyre, you are going to be in puncture range. And now Adam Sanderson will look around, and that is the recovering Dragonflies, hoping to try and find a way through. Not going to get there forward, but the key here is they've got to keep F1 Alex in tow, because that's net podium. Dragonflies nearly clipping the front wing off of him there through 5.
Wow, that was so close to an instant. I mean, Dragonflies had to get himself on the inside of the apex of the corner to avoid Adam Sanderson's car turning in. Wow, that was very close to a massive incident, especially when these guys are fighting for such high places not just in the championship, but this race as well. And let it unfold. Let them fight. Let them squabble, and let's enjoy it.
Let them race, and that is what we are getting here at this point. Everyone being allowed to race, and Adam Sanderson picks 3 seconds up in penalty, and those will add up for him. Not what he's hoping for. Peya currently your leader by 7 over Duncan and F1 Damien, who had such a great showcase. Look to go through. Long time on the soft tyres for F1 Luke Sam. He jumps into the pits. Now, you talk about what F1 Alex lost in terms of his stop. He lost about 2 seconds by going an extra lap. By going an extra 2 or 3, you could be losing upwards of 10 seconds.
Oh, 100%. It's going to be pain now. I think what will be F1 Luke Sam's goal here is he's going to be very relaxed on his tyres come the end. He's not going to be conserving. He's going to basically pretty much be flat out to the checkered flag here, and that might benefit him in the long run. It might not. I think we just have to wait and see when we get to lap 16.
I think we will as well. Tiamat Marduk, though, by comparison, is now at the very back of the field, which I think would have been a shock for a lot of people after that double stack. He's stuck behind Patterson with 16 seconds of penalty. Massive kick of oversteer there. He did well to save it, and that's where the quick hands and the wheel work there was enough to save Ben Daly in that situation.
Yeah, that was an almighty slide. He talked about being smooth. I'm not quite sure that was a very smooth save. Let's put it that way. And he's got plenty of work to do. He doesn't want to cook those tyres like he did in the first race. Let's hope he does not pick up a puncture for 2 races in a row. That would be really unfortunate for him if he did so.
There is Dark Viper back ahead again here of Lolanoba. These two are going to trade all race long. It's going to be a bit of game theory, you feel, at this moment in time. It's who wants to lead on what lap, I think, is going to be the question, and how much do they want to squabble, because right now it's about 26 seconds over to Peya, and Lolanoba, fastest lap in the dams, a 36.9, moving over to the inside with DRS. No argument there from Dark Viper. He realises his end game is lap 16, not lap 10.
Yeah, indeed, and it's the end game, and that's the thing that these guys are going to be playing for, that end game. So, well, again, it's that thing of waiting to the checkered flag to see. It's not about who's leading now, who's leading in 2 laps. It's about who's leading when that checkered flag falls that scores the points. And again, these two are definitely in the class of their own. Definitely far ahead of the rest of the field. Let's see if the other guys can catch up, or their squabble leads to even more time gained for our current effective top 2.
There is Dragonflies down in 8th. 3 drivers to clear. Pei is the one that he'll be worried about at this point, going long on the mediums, and of course going onto the soft tyre to finish. That is going to be an electric run. Pei right now goes for an 11th lap on this stint, and now realizes that he's going to be in a rather nice position. It's conglomerated around that top 10, and he would certainly love an opportunity to attack, as I believe that's in the background. F1 Damien then deciding to jump in the pits and gets 10 seconds for his troubles.
Oh, that's not good for Damien. He's taken the pain of being on those hards and has just got 10 seconds. I think it's very unlikely he's going to be 10 seconds clear of a lot of drivers, just because of how close everyone is on the circuit and how quick everyone is. But look at this little fight that's going on. No defense for Jessica Ball. It's almost like she's driving an F3 car. That's just how fast these two guys are driving in front of her. I think that's the power of DRS and fresh tyres. These two at the front still in their current positions. I think in the last couple of laps they have gained 2 seconds to pair. So not quite as much time difference as I would have expected, but perhaps they're still on their bit of a management phase going on for those guys. So of course they don't want to find themselves like Ben did in the first race with a puncture, or worse, if that's a rear puncture and that sends you into a barrier. A DNF with no points scored would not be great for their championship positions at the moment.
No, it really wouldn't, and nothing really that Jessica Ball could do. She is on, of course, those really old tyres, 10-lap old hard tyres compared to 5-lap old hard tyres. That's nothing to do with skill. That's just a case of tyre versus tyre. Nothing you can do. Racing giving a bump there to Duncan through the middle of 7. Not often that you get to see that happen, and managing that quite wonderfully. In comes Peya from the race lead. So now this is where you get to sense, where does Peya come out? Because him on the soft tyres, he is going to be on a fast motor track, looking to try and get past anyone he can see that is breathing with a pulse.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly exciting, even if he's only a couple seconds. But I'm sure he's going to be a few more than a couple. But he's going to be so much faster, and it's going to be exciting. I think an interesting point that I did want to quickly mention, Razin Chai does not have a front left end plate. That damage we saw, it did not get replaced. So that's why I don't think he's making as much progress as we might have expected him to make. Where has Peya come out? P9. A lot of work to do, but that gap is not the largest we've seen. It's probably sort of... Oh, actually, it's a bit... There we go. There's that. Ah, very nice from the producer. 13 seconds. Is he going to be able to make that up? I think he's a little too big to make that gap up. He's certainly going to be up there come the checkered flag. Let's say Lolanobra and Dark Viper do squabble and fight as they are right now. That could help Peya and other drivers get even closer to these two that we thought were untouchable at the start of the race. But let's just see how it plays out, as always. Let's see till the checkered flag.
Well, I don't think that a victory is in the cards maybe for Peya, but a podium certainly could. F1 Alex would be the target in that regard. The ever solid, ever consistent F1 Alex just notching up result after result. Dark Viper once again keeping himself in play, but there is dramas out there for Matty and Peya because it looks like they've come together at 10. And just like that, any hope of a top 10 just about holds up for Peya. Dirk takes 3 seconds worth of time penalty, but a disaster on the first overtake attempt on Matty 13 as off the road goes Jess Ball, staying out of the way of everyone, taking the inside line to go to pit lane.
Yeah, I think that's actually worst case scenario for Peya, because he's going to have lost time during that contact, perhaps a tiny bit of damage to the tyres as well, more than he would have wanted, and yeah, that's pretty much sums up. That pretty much makes his charge to the podium pretty much over at this point. But he can still, I very much hope that he'll be able to. Well, he is in the points at the moment, but I think he will be able to gain a large amount of points come the checkered flag. But let's just keep an eye on that now. Only 4 laps to go. Still anyone's game here.
It is, and right now it is, of course, those two. Jess Ball on the radio then. I misjudged where the pit entry was. Yeah, that is correct. It is one of those where it is after they go through the final corner. Of course, in some regards, you got the pit lane through the first, and there is a car off. So that's Patterson. Freebie there for Jessica Ball, now 14th position there with that search. But this is going to be a race which is not over by any stretch of the imagination, not just for the race win, but you've also got F1 Alex versus Dragonflies for the podium as well. So everything on hand. But of course, you've got Dirk, who's currently now in 3rd, but with a 3 seconds worth of penalty.
Yeah, indeed. And yeah, that penalty is going to cost him, like we talked about before this race. Those penalties will cost drivers. Look at Damien's 10 seconds. That will drop him out of the points at this stage, which is horrible for his championship charge. Even if he's driven a fantastic race, just that little mistake coming into the pit lane cost him massively. But for the lead then, it's almost thinking like Dragonfly ducking out of the slipstream there. Sorry, Dark Viper, ducking out of the slipstream from Lolanova, almost like he doesn't actually want to make that move until it comes to the last lap.
That's the game. He knows that it's the best place to make a pass. Peya will take another 10 and in fact will retire the car then out of this race. The speeding in the pit lane, the straw that breaks the camel's back. But these two going at it, and lest we not forget Dirk versus F1 Alex versus Dragonflies, we're going to have fireworks in the final 3 laps of this race. Anything possible and plausible out there at this moment, and there might be troubles as well for Matty as well, who I think may also have retired the car as well in the pit. So chances for drivers to jump up and get some very big hauls of points if this continues in this way. Dark Viper shadowing 0.6 of a second the gap then through the middle sector, and this is where you're going to have to try and stay in play. Dark Viper's got to hold on. Lolanova knows that these are vital laps. He knows that Dark Viper's not going to want to make that move, so he's got to try and break the second.
Yeah, I think he actually lost quite a bit of time there compared to what he's been in previous laps, which is not great for him, as perhaps Lolanova's actually turning up the radio now a bit and is going that much faster. We'll just have to, again, it's a patience game, but I think it also could just be setups and where they're quicker, where they're slower, because that gap only half a second now. Is that going to be enough to get him into the overtake? I'm sure we'll see a little teaser coming into next lap. I think it honestly could be, because I think when Dark Viper really wants to go for that move, it's definitely there. It's certainly there.
Oh, and here comes F1 Alex.
Lap. Indeed, he does. That's up into P. He retains that P3. Or gets it from Dirk Chocolate now, who's got to defend from Dragonflies, pulls over to the outside to avoid that cutback. We've seen that defensive move happen so many times, but that does give him a slightly poorer run. Dragonflies now does have that superior run as they make their way up into turns 4 and 5, but it's not going to quite be enough, although Dirk does go quite wide. Does go quite wide there, but I think he's just about done enough.
Oh,
it's
3 seconds!
Right on edge to see.
That's the moment! That's the moment right there.
It.
Dark Viper takes 3 seconds worth of penalty, and that is a death knell in the coffin. Lolanoba right now is going to be delivered a 4th straight win.
Yeah, that's a horrible mistake to make. The Dark Viper, he's going to be kicking himself a bit there. Yeah, again, that's a race. Again, it's a penalty like we talked about just before the race. Penalties might decide our order this evening, and I think that'll certainly dishearten Dark Viper a bit. It was so close. Now it looks so far. He's dropped back a little bit now as well.
Well, the question's going to be, as we start the final lap of the feature race, Lolanoba, will he win this one on track, or will Dark Viper still go out there for it? A fastest lap in the back pocket to boot. That was a case of Dark Viper hitting 101%, going over and picking 3 seconds. Watch out for third behind as well. Had to push, but he knew he'd get that penalty. That pretty much says all you need to know. F1 Alex has Dirk scouted here through turn 1. That's going to be big in terms of what he needs. He's not going to worry about Dirk. He's going to worry about Dragonflies. But every driver wants to try and get a podium on the board. Still not over for the overall right now, because that gap is still 0.3 of a second, and all the drivers want to take victory on the circuit. But that look again, in through 4 and now through towards 5, that's going to be where that second group wants it. Lolanoba continuing to stay close. Dragonflies with a little wiggle there as he goes through. Nothing he can do to stop Dirk in the middle of this group. He will need a desperation move, maybe 10. Might be the place where he's got to try and get there, but look at the dirty air effect, the vortices that come off the back of the aerodynamics, making life nigh on impossible here for Dragonflies to chase this one down and try and get what he wants, which is 4th and then 3rd. He will be 4th with where he's placed, but he wants a little bit more. Dark Viper still realises that he could take it on track, but it's going to be a little bridge too far, you feel, at this moment, and chasing through the triple rights. Not much that Dragonflies can do about it, but it's lovely from Lolanoba. He's got Sprint and Feature Canada, Sprint and Feature Qatar. It's the Fantastic Four for Lolanoba. He takes it, and he takes it brilliantly.
Yeah, an incredible win for Lolanoba. He literally had pressure this time, but did not crumble. He held on majestically, and I think it's a deserved win for him as well. For the battle for the podium as well, F1 Alex does take that last podium spot. Dirk, with that penalty, unfortunately does drop down to P5, but still a brilliant result for himself as well. Wow, that was an exciting race, exhilaration right to the end with that lead fight. Just rather unfortunate Dark Viper picked up that penalty, but that's the risk. That's the risk you take, pushing so hard, going for victories here, and that's what we want to see. We want to see guys pushing to the max, and well, it unfortunately didn't work out for Dark Viper today, but still an incredible race and a good result for him. P2, the best he was going to get.
Wonderful driving throughout. The drivers taking their penalties unserved as they get themselves over towards the end here. Likes there of Zach RC and Patterson, then, who will be scrapping amongst each other right now towards the end. Of course, Zach's got 7 seconds in the back pocket, so he will be there ahead. Oh, that's it, Archie Bargy going through turn 15. Sparks flying there as they head through, and they're connected front to rear tyre, and they are desperate to make sure they will not leave this circuit without pretty much morphing into each other out there at that point. Zach RC will take it on the circuit. A nice dump over the line. A bit of fun between those two as they get themselves over the line there. Patterson, with all the penalties in the world, trying to go for a record for most. 22 seconds. I don't think we've seen anything nearly as close as that over the course of this. But F1 Damien with the quote-unquote driver of the day. Wow. What a showcase we have just had, Harry.
Yeah, indeed. And I think in the end, the alternative strategy just didn't play out for the guys who tried it. It wasn't the right one. It just didn't work for them, unfortunately. And our vanilla strategy of starting on the softer onto the harder just worked out so much better for the guys, as they didn't have to take forever to make their stops, and they pitted early, and it just made it work for them. And that's what got the victory today. But great pace from so many drivers out there on the circuit. Shame we didn't see Timoet Marduk and Razin Chai making their way through the order as I kind of expected them to, really. They just faltered off. I'm sure we might hear from them and find out what happened through their races.
Yeah, and some wonderful results there. So confirmation, Lolanoba will take his 4th straight victory with that result. Dark Viper and F1 Alex, 2nd and 3rd. And Dragonfly's picking up 4th with Dirk in 5th, Duncan in 6th. So the MP car's doing quite well. Are you looking down the order? Adam Sanderson in 7th there. Are you looking back there? Timoet Marduk having some fun at the back of the field there as he was looking to try and make his progresses through. That got usurped as he went through, so he decided to go to the back. But some wonderful racing throughout that we have had. We're going to take the chance now to jump over with a couple drivers. Harry Lacey has caught down in with the paddock. He's found F1 Alex.
Alex,
Hello.
On the podium for you, a fantastic result on the podium, having to fend off a couple of drivers from behind. How difficult was it to fend those guys off? How quick were they?
Very quick. This is my worst track of the calendar. I wasn't looking forward to Qatar. But yeah, GG's to Dirt Chocolate. GG's to Dirt Chocolate, because he just kept battling. There was one point where I think I managed to pull about a 2-second gap, and then I got held up behind Jess, and then he caught back up, overtook me, and he yeah, man, it was a great battle.
It's great to see. And for your worst track, I'm sure you're incredibly proud of a P3 performance. And well, how was the strategy out there? How did you decide when you were boxing? How was that for you?
Rubbish. It wasn't very good. I was on the same strategy as P1, P2, P3, P4, pretty much the whole grid, softs onto hards. And I was sitting in 4th with DRS, and I saw all 3 of them pit. And for some reason, I decided to go an extra lap, and I lost 5 seconds on the lap. So that's what I thought that was my podium out. And then it wasn't until about 4 laps till the end I saw Dragonflies was behind me, and I'm not entirely sure how. Maybe got held up in the pits. So yeah, it was rubbish, and I got a bit lucky.
I'll just jump in on that there and just say that Dragonfly's actually spun on his outlap turn 2.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I didn't even notice he spun. I didn't even see myself going into above him. So yeah, no. Well, I mean, I'll take it. You know, my worst track, I got a P2 in the sprint, a P3 in the feature. Yeah, we take those. We take those.
I know, and you should be very proud. A great result for you out there this evening.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your commentary, guys. I'm sure I'll go back and watch it later. Have a good evening.
F1 Alex there, joining us overall, picking up a 3rd place finish there. We're going to jump in now with Dark Viper here, who had a wonderful display of driving out there over the course of the feature. Dark Viper, unfortunately, penalties are a thing when it comes to racing. You ended up with 3 seconds there on that push going forward, trying to chase down Lolanoba. You must have been at 105%, trying to give everything to keep him in check.
Oh, his pace was just unreal. We were both going like a bit under the limit because the front left tyre was just awful to not get a puncture. I crossed the line with 60%, so like I did an okay job there. but he's just so quick, man. Like, he's just unreal. I couldn't believe it. Like, every time I was getting a bit closer, he just pulled the gap up, and it was so annoying.
No, I can definitely sense that. For you, though, in terms of putting together this race, trying to get everything sorted, of course, it is your first jump in for this season. We did see you, of course, a little bit of last season. So to get back into the swing of things here, come on in Qatar and really give a showcase on what this is all about. For you, how important was it just to get back into the swing of things and go, you know what, let's have a good battle and just, go out for it, because you broke out 7-8 seconds off the rest of the field.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed because I'd have to have a look back at the sprint, but I just got tagged round and I was like so gutted because I felt like the pace was there, but obviously I didn't know since I was trailing around in like 16th for the whole sprint. Then quali came around, I managed to get P2 and quali's like never my strong suit, and like just the battle up front and like the gap was there, so that's like something positive, to look at going forward. Maybe I can stop the dominance.
Yeah, it's been that sort of season. You've been jumping in, of course, into the F1 series as a reserve, a non-finished last time out of round 2. So for you, in terms of what you're looking for then through the Creator Series, what is your main goal in terms of how you're pushing forward and what sort of results you're looking for and the combination of pace you're trying to gain?
Well, I had some pedal issues last week, W Fanatec. So that kind of sucked in F1. I'm just here for the battles, honestly. That was so like fun. Like, it was so clean and everything. It was just, it's nice, when you get a good battle going. Like, that's all really. Racing.
Well, it's good racing for you. And of course, with the P2, I'll give the floor to you. Anybody you'd like to thank, Dark Viper?
I want to thank my mum for this one, Landon in chat, Chris, and that's about it really. But yeah, thank you guys.
Rule 1, you've got to thank the mum. You've got to thank the dad. Father's Day.
Happy birthday, Tom. Happy birthday, Tom.
Oh, you got to give Tom a happy birthday.
Guys. Yeah.
Perfect. Dark Viper.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Dark Viper there joining us, having a wonderful display of driving. But Harry, that'll bring the curtain over towards a close. We've got a couple of things to touch on before we jump on forward to it. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get F2 standings. That's going to be one thing to keep in mind. But next time out, Barcelona, which is going to feel very similar to what happened here today at Losail. Limited overtaking opportunities, hot circuit, very much a case of rinse and repeat. It's going to be a carbon copy style.
Well, I think, we could say that, but there's not quite as many high-speed corners. I think it might be just a little different. But, I mean, if we see Lola Noba's dominance again, we might see a Lewis Hamilton tweet saying it's boring fans. But, we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. And, again, as you said, similar-ish circuit with the overtaking opportunities. But I think there is more points around that circuit. Slightly less flowing than Qatar, as it is a purpose-built Formula-style circuit. So it might be a bit more static than we saw this evening. Perhaps not quite as many switchback battles like we saw around this incredible Losail circuit. And I think it'll just be the best man wins once again next weekend.
And that is worth keeping in mind. Let's take a little look at some standings, shall we? And the margin now is massive. Lola Noba is nearly a full race clear. 26 points ahead of F1 Alex, whose consistency keeps himself in range, but that is a full feature race full of points ahead. Harry, that is going to be hard to close down.
Yeah, 100%, and especially in the form that he's in. I mean, we saw just even with the pressure, he was just able to slightly extend his gap, slightly find that bit more time. And, if he continues the trajectory he's going, he's going to win it early on. And, it's going to be very, very difficult for anyone to reel him in at this stage. But what I do think is quite interesting, Adam Sanderson and Dragonflies on equal points. That'll be an interesting fight for those two, both on the 60, only 4 points away from F1 Alex. So maybe we see Lola Nova out there in the distance winning the championship, but the battles for P2 and 3 might still excite us right to the end of the season.
There's an opportunity for a number of drivers here today. Dirk's now profiteered and jumped up into 5th. The likes of F1 Damien's moved up. Biegert really needed something today and he didn't find it. And that's put Hayden Gullis in a good position where he can still definitely challenge in around that top 10. Dart Viper's efforts today, putting him up into 9th position with those results. But that's going to bring everything over to a close. You can always catch all our links, which are out there, of course, in Twitch chat. That gives you the opportunity to follow us on all the socials that we have available to us, not just in terms of F1 Creator Series, but all the talent that makes the work behind the scenes, including our beautiful, beautiful director, Gareth Allen, for today's action. From Gareth Allen, from Harry Lacey, my name is Jake Sperry. How do you stop lolling over? That's the question that will be asked from here on out. It is 4 straight victories. He is looking, simply put, like he is waltzing forward. And right now, he is rampaging like a bull. And right now, El Plaza del Toro will wait for him because the pressure cooker will mount on his championship lead. We head to the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, in 1 week's time. You want to be with us here with the EA Creator Series and jump through. We're back tomorrow with F1 action, so you definitely don't want to miss that. Thank you very much, and we'll see you very soon.